Starship Nova Strike. Starship Nova Strike was a game you could get on Steam for 99 cents. It was made by the ever-so-loving and recently extinct Digital Homicide. In short, the game was your basic 2D space shooter that was 99 cents and not done real well. And while normally I just end the review at that because there's nothing else to say about it, really, in the past, I did review another 2D space shooter game that was 99 cents and not done really well. And that was Stellar 2D. So we have two games that are both horizontal 2D space shooters. They're both 99 cents. They were both available on Steam at one point. And both are terrible. The thing is which one is the least terrible? Well, Starship Nova Strike gets the advantage right off the bat because it doesn't have a 1-minute unskippable cutscene that Stellar 2D has. What I really didn't like about the cutscene in Stellar 2D is that it didn't explain anything. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. It was really just didn't need to be there at all. It ruined the whole gameplay flow. And after hearing it about 17 times, was just plain annoying. But on to graphics. Which one looks better? Well, both of them are terrible. Starship Nova Strike, all the enemies and all the textures and everything just looks like it was stolen from other games, or just, some ye old generic background or ye old generic laser. And it's really the same with Stellar 2D. I mean, they look like they were, custom-made scratch sprites covered in a heavy amount of wax. I mean, in short, both of them are terrible, and neither of them win. So on to sounds. Which one sounds better? So let's start off with Stellar 2D. There is quite a lot of variety of different music tracks, and there's quite a lot of sounds as well. Now, the sounds are quite loud and can get quite annoying, and it's really the same with soundtracks as well, but there is a good variety of them, and I give them props for trying. The same really can't be said for Starship Nova Strike. Pretty much all the sound effects are borrowed from Galactic Hitman, and where they got them for Galactic Hitman, I don't know, they probably stole them. And the in-game music really just sounds like generic elevator music or some sort of menu screen from somewhere else. And the start menu music is really annoying, and then it loops again about every 15 seconds. And so yeah, for the best music and sound effects are going to go to Stellar 2D. But on to the main part of this game review, the gameplay. Which one plays the best? So let's start off with controls. For controls, Stellar 2D I always thought was a little delayed and pretty slow moving. And I overall didn't like it how it was kind of hard to dodge different enemies and lasers, much less see them. That's another part that we'll get into. Whereas Starship Nova Strike, that's the total opposite. You pretty much go everywhere, and what's really hard is to make yourself stop in one place. And so, for controls, I'd have to say Starship Nova Strike just because it's a little bit easier to dodge stuff, or more like avoid one thing and immediately hit another thing across the entire screen because you can't stop. Another thing that's better about Starship Nova Strike is that there's just a lot more room to move around. I remember one thing that I really didn't like about Stellar 2D was that you and the enemies were just too big and took up too much of the screen, which made it so you couldn't move around too much, and that pretty much made the game area very, very small. So I do like that Starship Nova Strike does have smaller enemies and that you are smaller, so that means you have a lot more area to play with. Now let's talk about enemy frequency and placement. Now while that sounds very specific, it is very important. One of the main things I didn't like about Stellar 2D was enemy placement and frequency. This mostly made the game very chaotic in later levels and made it next to impossible to play after a while. And it was mostly combined with the lack of area that they would overlap each other, making it so you'd have to shoot it a bazillion times in order to eliminate all the enemies in that area. And that's really where Starship Nova Strike is just better. Because of the bigger play area, because there is much less enemies spawning, and because the stuff goes by a lot faster, it makes a lot more room for more enemies. And that really just makes the game, not borderline impossible very early in the game. I'm not saying it's very easy, mostly because the controls being very sporadic, but it is a lot easier to play than Stellar 2D. Overall, Starship Nova Strike plays a lot better than Stellar 2D. But one thing that Stellar 2D has over Starship Nova Strike is that it's a lot better built. Now, generally, games that are as simple as this don't really have that many problems. Stellar 2D proves my point, and Mini Attack Submarine proves my point. But Starship Nova Strike is one exception. There are plenty of bugs with Starship Nova Strike. One, I started up the game about 5 different times, and only once did the Digital Homicide logo show up. The second time I started the game crashed. When the game over screen starts, you can still shoot particles across the screen, and sometimes you can shoot them on the main menu as well. And then the big one is sometimes, once you play more than 3 games without exiting out, you'll start with 2 lives instead of 3. You'll basically die, it'll show an extra long black screen, and then you'll all of a sudden find yourself with only 1 life left instead of 2 lives, which is what you should properly have. So, overall, would I recommend this game over Stellar 2D? I think I can say that. Starship Nova Strike is pretty much better in almost every single aspect. I mean, while it doesn't sound as well, doesn't sound as good, and isn't built as well, it plays a lot better. It plays a lot faster. The game plays a lot faster. It flows a lot faster, and it ends a lot faster. So that's pretty good. But would I recommend this game in general? Not really. I mean, for being such a simple game, it has quite a lot of faults. It doesn't look that good, and the controls are not that great. While you are better than Stellar 2D, that isn't really saying anything. I mean, that really just isn't saying anything at all. So, I mean, if you really want to go around and look for one, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of Steam key giveaway for that game on the internet, along with all the other ones. But otherwise, I'm Oscar7. I will see you guys next week. I'll be reviewing the Decimation of Olarath, or something like that. But anyway, I will see you guys then. Goodbye. Wow.